Welcome back to my animal education series. Today I'm here at Animal World and Snake Farm Zoo with Caleb. And so today we're talking about this gopher snake. Let's start off with, where can you find a gopher snake?
Well, gopher snakes are part of a group of snakes in the genus Pituophis that occur in some form or another pretty much across the entire U.S. Gopher snakes occupy the western part. So these guys, you can find different species of gopher snakes from the Pacific coast all the way to probably about Sanderson in West Texas. Then you start to see bull snakes. Bull snakes occupy the Midwest till East Texas, and then you got pine snakes all the way to the East Coast. And they exist basically from Mexico all the way up, some of them into Canada, all from east to west. So, but this guy right here, I'm not sure where his lineage would be from, but Sonoran gopher snakes are what we would have out in West Texas, which is what he is. He's an albino, so he's a little different colored. Albino being the lack of black pigmentation. Snakes being an animal that makes three colors, yellow, red, and black, so we're left with the red and the yellow. These white parts would normally be solid black.
Obviously, you said it's albino, so it's not fully like natural or like quote normal coloration. What is this normal coloration? How does it help it in the wild?
Well, his normal coloration, like a lot of snakes, is basically brown and darker brown. Very good camouflage. If you would see a natural colored one, they blend in really well with, say, leaf litter, with shadows under bushes. These guys really occupy a lot of grassland sort of habitats. Really, it just kind of helps them blend in. Their bodies will normally, you can see here, we've got kind of a variation as you go from head to tail. He's struggling to figure out how to be held here. So you've got the tail, you see, has got a heavy white pattern, which would normally be black bars. And then through the middle here, you would have some real just different shades of brown. And then a little bit heavier black as you get back towards the head. So that kind of variation through the body of the snake really helps, again, with the camouflage, break up any sort of regular patterning or coloration. If you see this part of the snake and it sticks out in the bushes, this part you may not be able to see because it blends in well. So you never get to see exactly the whole animal because it's got different parts of it that blend in different.
And obviously out in the wild, this would not hide very well.
No, he would not.
But it's supposed to be like a darker brown and black. Yellow and orange doesn't exactly hide as well.
Yes.
So an albino animal would be not as well suited for the wild.
Yes, that is true. Now, most albino snakes are predictably, genetically, it's an inherited trait, but all of them started from an original wild-caught albino, if that makes sense. So someone lucked out and happened to find a baby albino before it got eaten. And then this is the product of generations and generations of reproducing that sort of trait. And people do that because it's, most people think that's a more attractive coloration than brown and darker brown.
And it's all what you want in an animal.
Exactly.
My dad and I, in our own collection, we have a lot of normals or wild types. So this is what we enjoy.
Yeah.
But whatever you want.
Yes, exactly right.
What do these gopher snakes eat in the wild?
Well, these guys, they would eat really any rodent they could fit into their mouth. I remember growing up, there was a lot of talk about how gopher snakes ate rattlesnakes, which isn't really true. This is one that is not a heavy snake eater really at all. So heavily just rodents. They'll also take birds. They'll eat eggs if they come across them. So they're fairly opportunistic. They would also eat lizards when they're young. In the wild, you kind of are left to, you gotta eat what comes along. But these guys do favor rodents. If they get big enough, they will take rabbits and things like that. And a lot of their range, the more common prey would be things like kangaroo rats or pocket mice and stuff like that, which are a little bit smaller meal than a rabbit for sure. But some of these guys can get up to be 6-7 feet long, which is big enough to eat a small guy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So they heavily mammal prey, but they will take a lot of other things, just usually not snakes.
What do you feed these Gopher Snakes here?
Here we feed him frozen thawed mice. He gets about 2 mice about every 2 weeks. That's about his schedule. That seems to keep him decently healthy. Jake is also he's one of our older animals here. He was donated here in 2009 actually, and he was already grown. So he's been with us here for a little over 10 years. And like I said, he was an adult at that point, and we're unsure of how old he was. So he's definitely one that we've all grown quite fond of. But he's getting up there. He's getting to be an old man.
And he definitely looks like a good education animal. Mm-hmm. He's not freaking out or anything.
Yeah. Yes, he's very always been very calm. Typically, a lot of your Gopher Snakes, they like to move a little more than Jake does. That's one thing that I noticed right away when I first started here about Jake. That he was very calm, was very good about just hanging out and sitting still. He doesn't like to sit his front half the way you want it all the time, but he's very good about being calm and not freaking out and trying to get away. A lot of them will really be active and wiggling around a lot.
Are these snakes diurnal or nocturnal?
They're diurnal, but you can find them a lot at night. They're kind of depends on the time of year. During the peak of summer, they're kind of more crepuscular and nocturnal. But during the spring and earlier cooler months when it's just starting to warm up, you'll find these guys active a lot more during the day. But especially out West Texas right now, when it's 100 degrees, it's pretty much too hot for anything to be out, except lizards.
So what would these snakes try to do to escape the heat? Like, would they go into different animals' burrows and things like that?
Yes, they would go into burrows. They might find shade near a creek that's affords them a good enough escape from the heat. But definitely underground. Anywhere they can fit underground is going to be heavily occupied by these guys. They're one that you'll also find undercover at certain times of year. Say under rocks or even artificial cover under debris that people have left behind. A lot of people think snakes like it when it's hot, but they just like it when it's nice.
They have to be able to thermoregulate.
Exactly.
Like, they might like the hot, but they have to be able to cool down too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they can definitely get way too hot, and that causes a lot of problems with snakes.
Are these Gopher Snakes endangered in the wild?
No, they're not protected really in any state that I'm aware of. There may be a subspecies in California, I think, that might be protected, but for the most part, they're relatively common,
which is good to hear. Exactly.
Yes, these guys are one that they've adapted very well so far to living around people, especially, and their rarity or commonality is really just kind of based on the habitat that they're in. They don't occupy every habitat. But they are well suited to several. So there are areas that if you're not finding them, but you're in the range, it's really just a habitat issue.
What is one of your favorite things about the Gopher Snake?
Well, I think it's probably that I grew up catching them. I grew up finding them near the house. I grew up. This was not a Sonoran Gopher Snake, but the Great Basin Gopher Snake was the most common snake. Really where I grew up, and I've liked snakes my whole life. So these were often what I found when I was out hiking in the woods, or when we were on drives through dirt roads or whatever. We would see these guys a lot. Obviously, again, not albinos like Jake, but and slightly different a look to them than the Sonoran. Yeah, I found Gopher Snakes a lot growing up, and they've kind of stuck with me ever since then. So.
Well, thank you so much for telling us about Gopher Snakes.
Mm-hmm. No problem. Thanks for coming out, guys.
Oh, no problem. And thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. Don't forget to leave a big thumbs up down below, subscribe to my channel, and also check out my Instagram @ColeShirt. As always, I'll see you next week.